I'm here coming to you live from Snowtown, South Australia. Joining me on the Carnivore Muscle Ramblings today is the incredible Coach Nicole. Today we are going to be answering your diet, health, and fitness questions, and we will take any objections, any sort of disparity, any frustrations you have, and we're going to put them in a barrel full of acid and hide them in an old bank vault. Nicole, how are you today?
Whoa. I am fantastic. Jonathan's having technical difficulties, so hopefully Jerome and I can do it justice. But that was an incredible introduction. Thank you.
Thanks. It's lots of subtle signaling for Snowtown. So
Yes.
I'm just making.
So Jerome is having a killer Christmas, and I'm having a merry Christmas. So we're like polar opposites over here.
Polar being a nice, pun with the holidays and North Pole. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Okay,
Thank you.
so I suppose we'll see who's in the chat. If anyone has questions, get them out now, and Nicole and I will do our best to answer them. But as always, Nicole is going to do about 90% of the work. I'm just going to sit back with my arms folded, trying not to embarrass myself too much. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks for putting me front and center. Nicole also has creative access to the software that we're using. So any sort of shenanigans, tomfoolery, or the like is purely and solely the responsibility of Coach Nicole today.
I object.
Excellent.
Oh, no kidding. No kidding. Well, Jonathan.
I made it. Sorry about that, guys. I had some technical difficulties. I downloaded two new browsers.
We decided to end the stream early. So thanks for popping on, Jonathan.
Yeah, we have literally answered
live 1 minute 59 seconds in.
In 2 minutes, we've addressed every single health and diet and fitness and nutrition question that has ever existed.
Yep. All right, we can go home now. No more ebooks to sell. No more products or services to offer. Excellent. Yeah. How are you guys doing anyway?
Doing well, Jonathan. How about you?
Not bad. Not bad. We'll press some buttons, but it doesn't look as good, I don't think. Yeah. We'll leave it like that, I think. That works quite well for me. Yeah.
As long as it works for you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Apologies to the channel members that have missed my attendance for the last 2 minutes. I'm a bit, what's the word? Exhausted. We did a push workout with my brother and his friend. It's basically how many reps we could do without killing ourselves. And I finished 25 minutes ago. I'm wrecked.
And how many reps was it?
20 reps of an incline chest press, or Smith machine press, with 2 partials. My brother only got 17. But he set the standard, so he hit the benchmark. But it wasn't like... But he's quite funny. He changed the benchmark, so we were initially going to do however many reps. Then he's like, oh, let's do time retention now. So I was like, well, I can definitely beat you on that, because I trained at that. So yeah, just like rep. But yeah, it was good fun. But
Don't
yeah, I'm
do
currently
that to
in the
me,
office,
Jonathan, by the way.
Yeah, that'd probably kill you, wouldn't it? Excellent. Well, I'm definitely going to put Nicole on a training regime that is extremely difficult, high intensity training, 0 rest, all drop sets and all force negatives as well.
Oh, there she is. Just burpees, 1,000 burpees a day.
That's it. Oh yeah. Do you have any questions today, or is it quite a quiet stream?
But we haven't put any up. I think there's 2 in the chat at a cursory glance here.
We could perhaps have a little go at it, maybe. I don't know. We could just not answer questions today unless someone needs a super chat.
Whoa. Anyone watching from my channel, I will answer all your questions with or without a super chat. That's how much I appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm a greedy human being, apparently. I only care about what lines my pockets. At the moment it's chewing gum wrappers, so there's not a lot in there, to be honest. Yeah. All right, should we go through the chat? Who wants to press the buttons today? Because all 3 of us can press buttons. Nicole seems to be the most engaging. So
well, you have a new channel member, so
excellent. That's fantastic news. Thank you for joining. It doesn't see what tier they've joined, but it doesn't matter because any tier is better than no tier. So I appreciate you joining.
And of course, we got Rick in the house. Quack, quack, leave the duckies alone.
Excellent.
And what's up, Susie?
Monday's
So we
a
have
good
the
day, I
usual
think.
Matthew. I told him I was just
Excellent.
going to call him V because I'm bad at names.
Vitaligus.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's good enough, I think.
Carnivorous Dutch
Tom.
Giant Tom. That is the best name ever.
Does it
Baroness
mean
of
if I
V.
tell him that he spelt carnivorous wrong?
That's fine. The other way was probably taken.
Yeah, that's
You have to
usually it.
improvise.
Improvisation.
There are a
very
lot of
important.
Dutch giants out there named Tom.
Yeah. There probably are.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
This looks
So
like a
speaking
question.
of giants, he has a question. Question regarding doing a mini cut 3 to 4 weeks. Of course, everyone is different, but was wondering what would be a good idea in terms of mass in, mass out model. Should one implement proteins? I don't know what SPMF is. Is that the same as protein sparing modifying fast?
I think he
type
just
thing?
mistyped it.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
So which one of you two want to answer this one first?
Jerome's a world-class expert, an elite coach, a master guru among gurus. I'd absolutely ask him for this advice. He's been currently coaching hundreds of clients over this last month, actually. So I'm sure he's got a lot of experience and a repertoire of information to share with us. So I'll hide the fake so you can see his face.
Jonathan's being a little hyperbolic. We had a offline conversation earlier today about a lot of fitness marketing, but oddly enough, I'm probably the least qualified person to answer this question. So I'm going to keep my answer, at least on this panel. So I'm going to keep my other answer fairly succinct. You certainly could do a protein sparing modified fast. I don't have a lot of experience with it. I know Jonathan has put out a video on his protocol. It's a little bit different than Lyle McDonald's original protein sparing modified fast protocol. That'll do a slightly better job of trimming fat than a more conventional mini cut. But what I liked that you said in your post is you were thinking 3 to 4 weeks. I think neither Jonathan nor I are fans of long-term mass or so-called caloric restriction. I think that comes with potential for long-term metabolic damage. So I would rather see people cycle through periods 3 to 4 weeks in kind of a cut than going back to like more of a maintenance or maybe like a couple of weeks of just a very, very, very slight surplus and then go back into a cut. But there's a million different ways to skin a cat. So, excuse me, with that very vague generalized answer, I would defer to the two more qualified experts that are sitting with me here today.
Leave cats alone and way to deflect, Jerome.
You guys are far more qualified to answer this question than I am.
God, speak about minimal effort, you know? I'm just kidding. Jerome hasn't been here in a couple weeks, so I've missed him.
I see. I've only ever been nice to you, Nicole, and you see the treatment I'm getting today.
Really? You called me short butter girl the last time. I was like,
I'm just
That was
teasing.
good, that.
that was
I
good.
knew it was Jerome. I was like, it wouldn't be anyone else. Yeah.
So what do you got to that, Jonathan? I don't have a lot of experience with the protein sparing
Yeah.
modified fast, and you did a video on it. So what do you have to say about that?
Yes, I mean, I've done it honestly in real life, actual real life, about 20 plus times. I've tried it lots of different ways with different fat, carb amounts. I found if you keep carbohydrates in at all, you just end up craving more. Sweet tastes, if you're adding in sweeteners, that would just mean you want more and more and more. So if you're going to phase into it and you know it's going to be a steep deficit in terms of food mass, I'd absolutely try to find ways to reduce any sweet taste you have in your mouth because you will end up binging, particularly if you're a very low body fat. My guideline is to set the protein at a given amount, then perhaps set the fat gram amount about half what the protein is, and that will depend on your activity levels. And to my understanding, Carnivorous Dutch Giant Tom is performing 4 intense training sessions per week. And on other days, he's looking at doing, I believe, about 3 high-intensity interval training sessions alongside abs and cardio, various different kinds, on off days. So he's doing a lot of activity, a lot of output. I honestly think if he just reduced his food intake by maybe 10-20%, that would give him a lot better result, and the risk of overtraining would be a lot less. Now, if he is to do a protein sparing modified fast just for whatever reason, in that instance, and if he wants to keep the same physical activity and output, I'll probably actually just do it twice per week for 4 weeks, and that will see you probably lose 5 or 6 pounds of pure fat without much detriment to your training performance at all. Now, when I'm talking about that, I mean if you're already, say, 6% body fat, and then you add in this protocol, then you're at the point where your body fat's going to get lower and lower and lower, in which case you won't perform very well, full stop. There's not much you can do to mitigate that outside of just optimizing sleep and the health hacks that myself, Jerome, and Nicole would always speak about. But yeah, that's pretty much my take on it. I mean, I'll be looking at the video I did make. It says something like, go onto my channel, maybe a month, 2 months, I think it's 2 months back at this point. Carnivore Extreme Fat Loss Protocol, something like that. You'll see a picture of me ripped out of my mind next to it in the thumbnail. You won't miss it. I believe it's got yellow and white font. I might try and link it in the chat in a minute if I can. But yeah, that's what I'd probably look at, and that'll give you a good indication of what to look at. But the main thing is, do you still recover? Do you still train hard? Do you still enjoy training hard? And does that fat loss endpoint match what your goals are? Or is it just you're trying to lose X amount of body fat for the sake of it? In which case I'd say you probably don't need to do it unless you're maybe 20-25% body fat, in which case, yeah, I'd probably say get below that 20% body fat mark. That's pretty much my take, but I'm sure I've missed a few things. I left a bit on the table there for Nicole to talk over. So
No, I was gonna say exactly what you said towards the end there. Depends on the goal and fat loss, and if you're looking to just drop body fat, then there's really no need for that. Just slow and steady wins the race, right? Because yeah, you're going to cut and you're going to drop the body fat, but then if you resume to your normal style of eating, depending on what the deficit difference is, you're likely going to gain some of that back. So it just depends on what your goal is and what your purpose of doing that type of fasting is. I'm typically not a proponent of what I call crash dieting, like fasting or any of that stuff just for fat loss. That's just my take, because you're setting it's a slippery slope, and I think doing that for fat loss, you're setting yourself out for failure right at the start, because unless you plan to sustain that way of eating the rest of your life, it's not going to be sustainable. So it just depends on why you're doing it, what your why is on doing that type of fast, and then that would kind of hopefully answer your question. But that's my take on it.
yeah, nice, that makes sense. What was your endpoint, and are you going to sustain whatever that endpoint is? If you're doing a bodybuilding competition in 3 or 4 weeks' time, yeah, go at it. You know, you want to win. You're not going to detract someone that's been cutting fat for that period of time from trying to do that anyway. So that's going to be the least abrasive approach, I think, outside of not eating at all, and probably not drinking either. I'm just going to quickly go and find that video and try and link it in the chat if you guys want to take over from there.
Yeah. Okay, we answered that one. What's up, baddest cat? Mike's in the house. He has another question, Giant Tom. How much fat can you cut without losing too much muscle optimally in a mini cut? All I will say to this, and then I will turn it over to Jerome and Jonathan, if you are losing, regardless if it's weight or body fat, if you are losing mass off your body, you can't tell your body to only lose fat and not lose like water weight or anything else. And you can't spot reduce or any of that. So as you're cutting and as you're losing weight, body fat, whatever from top down, it's going to come off. So it's the same with bulking. You can't just bulk and just gain muscle mass and not have some sort of fat come along with that. That's the same with losing, and that's the same with cutting. You can't spot reduce and you can't spot gain. So that's the only thing that I wanted to say on that. But bulking, cutting, and all this is Jerome and Jonathan's area of expertise more than mine, so I'll turn it over to Jerome.
Sure. I just wanted to take one last look at the question here. How much fat can you lose without cutting too much muscle? Really depends on approach, depends on how long you've been training, depends on a lot of factors. Um, I'm reminded of a documentary I like called I Want to Look Like That Guy, where the guy was a filmmaker and he hired an IFBB pro to coach him for a bodybuilding competition. And he was getting a DEXA scan done every couple of weeks, or sorry, a bod pod scan. And over the course of a 6 month prep, he lost 60 pounds, but he ended up building like 3 to 6 pounds of muscle in the process. So, um, short term or long term, you can build muscle or at least maintain muscle and lose almost exclusively fat in a food deficit, but that's going to come down to how hard you're training, the frequency of your recovery, the quality of food you're eating, how much food you're eating. Um, so there's, I can't really give guidelines. I think you can do it in a way, but in general, the way that I see it is I think if you're following a reasoned, principled approach, I would say that the vast majority of your weight loss should be coming from body fat. Um, oh shoot, where was I going to go with that? Jonathan, you go ahead and take over, and I'll try and think of that last point that I was going to make. Sorry, it's been a couple of weeks. I'm a little rusty.
Yeah, need more time in the shop, I think. There's a question: how much fat can you cut without losing too much muscle optimally in a mini cut? Okay.
Yeah.
I believe there's a percentage of body weight, and I believe that's something like 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week, I think. I'd have to check, but that's what they basically found the average natural the average natural bodybuilder would do and sustain that. That's what they tend to do, and I think when you look anecdotally, people that have done it successfully, they're probably right. You know, it's the biggest field of information we have. Although an anecdote is an anecdote, it's not exactly absolutely correct, well analysed, in an absolutely perfect study. It's the best anecdotes we kind of have, the best science we kind of have. I'd be going by your recovery. That's pretty much it. In instances where you feel, say you train 4 days per week and you think, you know, I've done my leg workout, my upper body, my push workout, my pull workout. And if you say your pull workout is the only workout of that week where you think, oh, things here are starting to dip, in that case, you might actually increase the food intake around that window of time. So you're optimizing the recovery there. Is that a massive hack? Is it going to absolutely change your workout and your progression? Maybe 5-10%, but that's what we're fighting for in bodybuilding terms. We're always trying to get that extra edge. I'll be more focused on just decreasing the training frequency if you're concerned about losing muscle and keeping your balance of protein the same. The other thing I commonly notice is people tend to undereat protein. People tend to undereat protein that they'll do some magical fast for, you know, twice per week and say, oh, you know, I'm not losing any fat, or I'm losing muscle, this, that, and the other. The scales aren't quite equating to what I think I should be seeing. In which case you sort of say, well, my protein intake every given week before the cut was this. This has been building or maintaining me. You want to keep that ideally about the same. Your food intake should always be as high as possible before actually starting any diet phase, which is why I quite like rapid fat loss phases myself, just because I can dip in and out, and I can, you know, assuming I've got a decent amount of body fat on me, I can actually dip in and out of my fat reserves and not have much detriment to my performance outcomes in the gym. Is there anything else to add?
I was just going to say that there's a number that Jonathan and I have talked about before, and it's based on the Minnesota starvation experiment, where it was estimated that the average person roughly can lose about 30 so-called food calories per pound of body fat that's on their body per day. Any more than that, and you risk losing lean body mass. Ironically, I think that study was done by Ansel Keys, which all of us in the carnivore space are just huge fans of Ansel Keys. The mindset I would have, and what I tend to think is, if you're a guy, and I couldn't put a number on it for women, but if you're a guy who is not in single digit body fat, if you're eating a species appropriate diet, if you're training hard, and if your numbers are still strong in the gym and you're not seeing a significant reduction in strength, I think it's fairly safe to say you're losing almost exclusively body fat at that point. The second you start dipping into those single digit levels and you're trying to take your body past a point of leanness that it doesn't necessarily want to go, then it becomes really, really hard to hold on to that muscle. But everything up until that point, I think you can say with a high degree of certainty is almost exclusively fat.
Yeah, I think that's well said. There's so much more we could go into just because, the experience has changed along the line. I'd recommend a consultation, honestly, myself, Nicole, or Jerome for any of this stuff. One thing I absolutely recommend to everyone watching this right now is to go out there and buy my ebook immediately. So Jerome and I spent a long time writing this, and it is very accurate, and the stuff in it is absolutely correct. It's bang on. I can say that without arrogance, but with certainty, because we've spent a lot of time investigating it all. So everything you see in these videos, it's all written out pretty much. Our take on little things. Some things we slightly differ on, but for the most part we agree on nearly all of it. So you got two guys here who've been training for 30, 40 years in combination. So I think it counts for something. We've been very successful training other people along the way as well.
And the only thing I'll add to that before we move on to Rick's question is, since Jerome mentioned men's body fat, I do want to touch on women. So again, this isn't my area of expertise. I just want to make that caveat. I'm not a bodybuilding nutrition coach, but what I will say is women have more. We're more hormonal, and naturally we need to carry around more body fat, right? So what happens with women is if you dip too low, we have our menstrual cycle. The second you lose your period, that is not good. That can cause long-term health effects the longer you're in that detrimental low body fat range. So a healthy range for women is in the 20 percentile. But if you are cutting, like for a bodybuilding show, you risk losing your period when you dip below the double digit, specifically around 15-ish%. If you dip below that, and this can vary from woman to woman, then that's where you run into issues with your menstrual cycle. And the longer you run into issues with your menstrual cycle, can be an issue long term the longer you do this. So it is different for women, and there's more things that women should consider if you are doing a bulk cut type lifestyle.
I made a note, and I'll put it into the description or in the comments of this video a little bit later, but they actually followed a number of people that were on The Biggest Loser around following the more conventional calorie cutting approach, where they ate 1,200 calories a day and exercised for like 8 to 12 hours a day. And I think most of the individuals that followed that particular approach ended up losing like 40 something percent of the weight that they lost came from lean tissue and not body fat. And then I mentioned that one N=1 documentary about the guy that lost 50 pounds of fat and built 6 pounds of muscle in 6 months. So there's a lot of different variables that go into that. And in this regard, more information is better. And these are probably just questions that are best answered in a consultation with Jonathan or Nicole.
Sweet. So I guess I'm a designated button pusher, so I'll push stuff. So Rick, this is more so to Jonathan's most recent video, more of those porn sound effects. And Jonathan, I had to mute the sound.
Sophie, what do you think of those porn sound effects?
I didn't hear any of them.
What?
I wasn't watching the live stream. Sorry.
No. His last workout video
With Jareth.
Have I seen it? I don't know.
It's
you
the
would
black
know.
and white one.
You would know.
Oh, they're all right. I mean, I've had better, do you know what I mean? When he's not there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't make much sound at all when I'm training.
No, he's quite quiet.
He's entirely Jareth. But he's of that mind. Like he the way he gets himself going is like very out there. With like me and Jerome, we're training. It's all like in our head. I wouldn't say our intrinsic motivation is on head, but the way we train is like everything's in our mind. Like we imagine it. Where some people have to like grip things and all that sort of stuff. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. To be fair, when I've trained with you, you don't make any noise much.
Yeah, his buddy though. If you like weren't watching the video and were just listening, oh buddy, I had to mute and just watch.
Yeah, Jareth's pretty crazy. He's always been like this. I knew him since we were in school together. So we've actually I'm trying to think now. We've known each other for about 14, 15 years. I'm quite young, so it's a long time for me. We did our first bodybuilding competition together when I think I was about 18, 19, 20. So I let him borrow my trunks at the time, and we competed together. But that was good fun. But he recently tore his pec. Go figure. So now I've got him into. I'm trying to get into like more safe, more effective training. You look at the weights he's using, like, yeah, no wonder why you're actually tearing your pec, because using a big weight in your form is like, so go figure. But I think he's going to implement some of the stuff that I taught him, and obviously I was transferred onto me through Jerome. So excellent.
I taught you everything you knew, didn't I?
Sophie's the brains behind it all. She's the brains and the physicality.
Yeah, I hide the muscles really well. Really well.
Oh man. Dang, Tom is 6'8", and people always call him giant, so that's how he came up with the name. Yeah, I would say that's slightly tall. It's a little bit taller than me. I'm 5 feet, so 6'8" is just a little bit taller than me.
Are you only 5 foot? Am I actually not the shortest one here?
No, it's cute, isn't it?
Yeah, normally I'm the shortest one here.
Jerome's the only 5'11" man in the world right now.
I measured my height the other day. I'm just under 5'11", so I feel like my whole life has been a lie.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah,
You have to start padding up your socks and wearing high heels.
I'm shrinking.
Oh no!
I'm so old, I'm starting to shrink.
Oh yeah, I think Jerome is the oldest one here. I think, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
by about 1 million years.
Not by me.
Ancient.
When I was young, the Dead Sea was just sick.
Wait, you're in your mid-40s, right?
38, but close enough.
Oh, I'm the oldest one here? Shit.
I was trying to be nice by saying that I was the oldest one here. So, yes, I'm the oldest one here.
I do have a 3 o'clock call, so I do have to pop off a little early. But Dwayno, currently on TRT, is there anything I need to be aware of while doing Carnivore at the same time? Jerome or Jonathan?
I'd ask Jerome first and foremost.
Well, aside from probably feeling like a teenager again with a optimal or near optimal human diet and appropriate levels of hormones, I would just say enjoy the ride. With respect to training, you might notice that on TRT that you can handle either a little bit more volume of exercise or more frequency. So that may change a little bit, but reference your numbers in the gym. And if there's no loss of strength and if you're continuing to get stronger, awesome, keep it up. But in general, no, there's nothing special you have to know. Just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, in terms of blood test values and stuff like that, the same rules still apply. You just might be more concerned about the symptomology of it. So, for example, say, I don't know, most carnivores don't need to wash as much because they don't smell as much. They don't get as much oil trapped in the skin. The body just runs more effectively, more healthily. If you have oily skin, perhaps you're someone that is more susceptible to that kind of side effect from hormones like that, you may have to wash more. That's about it. The same side effects that would occur in people on TRT versus not would be the same, whether you're on a carnivore diet or not. So yeah, but Jerome, I recommend checking out Jerome's channel, which is Jerome Armstrong. You'll find it probably linked under this one, perhaps after the fact, or you can just find him right now. He's pretty easy to find. He did talk about TRT recently, I believe in a video about 2 weeks ago, so check that one out. He goes for a whole talk about his experience on the carnivore diet and using TRT, so I recommend checking out that as well.
Sweet. We have a couple more questions. Matthew, what are your plans over Christmas? Are you seeing family or having a quiet one? Jerome.
Sophie, what are you doing?
Or Sophie.
Go ahead, Sophie.
Oh, it's just a quiet one for us. There's only 15 of us at me mum and dad's, really. It's quiet.
Is that small for you normally? Or
No.
okay,
No.
I wasn't quite sure.
No, there's quite a few. I think the last about 7 years. I have to find out how long my cousin's been married. We've had about 12, and then it's just slowly increased now that my nan's back from Cyprus. Now that Jonathan's here, and then my nan's got a new partner, so he'll be coming. So I think we're up to about 15 now. So it's going to be noisy as it is in the Fisher household.
I'll be asleep for the entirety of the situation.
Probably. Probably. You're going to be meat
Jerome, what
comatose.
about you?
I have people on both sides of my family that are sick, so neither my mom nor my dad's side are doing Christmas during Christmas week. So I will be sitting in my underwear watching serial killer documentaries on TV pretty much all day. What about you, Nicole?
Sounds festive.
Yeah.
I'll be in Vegas. We're meeting my parents in Vegas. We used to do this every other year before 2020 happened, so we're getting back into that. So yeah, so we'll be in Vegas for about 5 days for Christmas week.
Not too
Jonathan,
bad.
where are you?
Yeah.
I think I'm at Sophie's this year, but my Christmas is always very, very long. So it's usually span over about a week and a half. So I saw my dad's side of the family. I've not seen many of them in like a decade or two. So we're going to try and make a yearly thing of it now. So I saw them on, I think, Saturday with Sophie and Tilly. At the moment, I'm at my brother's house, which is why I'm in a different location. Obviously using a lavalier microphone rather than a big fat muzzle thing. What else? Then my dad's coming down to visit us again on Friday or Saturday. Friday, I think, maybe Saturday. Yeah. Then Sophie's picking me up Saturday, going back to hers. Then whatever Sophie just said, that's what we're doing. Then back at my mum's at some point. Yeah, going to my mum's on Thursday as well this week. So busy week. So I'm in 4 or 5 different destinations over a week. Standard.
Yeah.
Yes. Excellent.
Yes. What's up, Renee? Jonathan, you suggested taurine in another chat for leg cramps. Can you recommend a brand, or does it matter? Dosage, long-term use, etc., etc.
Sure. So in the UK, I recommend Bodybuilding Warehouse. If you can't get hold of that one, I recommend Peak Sups. If you're in the US, I'd find any kind of bulk powders one. It's not an amino acid or a sulfonic acid that you'll find often fake, despite what people say. It is cheap to get hold of. It's not something where you're going to have to sort of like find some loophole to get it. Just find a powder form. It has a slight funny taste if you put it in your tongue. If you mix it in squash, you can put a tiny bit in your coffee, perhaps if you have coffee. You probably won't taste it at all. It's not a strong chemical tasting ingredient. In terms of dosage, I couldn't say anything from like 1 to 10 grams. If you're a female and you're small, I'd use the 1 gram to start with. If you're on blood pressure medication or use lithium for any reason, definitely look and seek advice from a professional, because there could be a contraindication there. That's about it. But it is cheap and it's worth using, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't
Jerome, do you
taste
know
it in
where?
drink.
Yeah, Jerome, where do you get it from?
I get it on Amazon from a company called Bulk Supplements. I think they're NSP certified, but I'm not entirely sure on that.
Nice.
I just get everything on Amazon. So
You're fueling the fire, Jerome. Selfish. You're wrecking small businesses just like your own. I get mine from Amazon as well, by the way.
if there was a small business around here that I knew of that sold taurine, I would support something local. But there's nothing around here. I live out in the sticks.
That's Jerome's back garden, by the way, guys, in case you're
I was
wondering.
gonna say, yeah. Beautiful, that garden. And Nicole, what a lovely festive room you've got there. God.
Nicole got the story of the backdrop, but Jonathan and Sophie, it's not a good place.
I'm not paying a visit to you anytime soon. Yeah, Nicole's camera, her background looks very good today. Especially
Thank
good.
you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
How long
It
do you
took me
spend
all day to
sorting
draw
out?
that.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, that's her actual background in real life.
It's my actual living room. Yeah.
Thought so. You Americans go so festive. You just go out there.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, you go OTT all the time on every holiday.
Not in my house.
You put ours to shame. Look, that's
We're
mine.
too lazy.
Well,
Oh, look,
there you go.
you're more decorative than we are.
no, I don't know. Not in that room.
I mean, you know. Oh.
Excellent.
So I
Press some buttons.
started a bunch of questions. Matthew, until reading Jonathan and Jerome's book, I didn't realize that pronated grip front raises primarily target the medial deltoids. Can it be an effective substitute exercise for a lateral raise? I pronounce all of those words correct, by the way.
Yes.
Well done, Nicole.
Thank you.
Job.
I'm gonna say
Dun, dun, dun.
yes, but I don't know why you'd do it that way. I think the risk of shoulder impingement's higher by doing it front of you, just because the muscle in the front deltoid is tighter, and you can't actually raise it that high. So if you put your arm out in front of you, I've got about there, as if it's out to the side of me. So even just like maybe 20, 30 degrees to the side, I can bring it right up here. So I probably prefer to use a movement where you can get through the full active range of motion. The risk of injury is a bit lower. What I see a lot of people doing is they'll fling it up and catch it. So you don't want to do that. It's more of a raise, not a spin, you know. Jerome will be able to outline the muscle structure and function a lot better than I can. But what do you think, Jerome?
Well, I appreciate the benefit of the doubt, but again, I'm still kind of shaking some of the rust off. So, yes, front raise will work more medial delt than anterior delt. Jonathan's right that the anterior delt is kind of in a position of active insufficiency with shoulder flexion. But my thing is I would rather do it laterally because I think it's more conducive to just overall shoulder health. The first couple of degrees of shoulder abduction is going to be largely done by, I think, the supraspinatus and the rotator cuff handles the first 15 to 30 degrees or so. And again, like Jonathan said, if your arm is straight out in front of you, not that you'd necessarily have impingement, it's just less of an ideal contraction. Muscles are generally strongest closer to the resting length and resting positions. So taking your arm and adducting it across the front, depending on what you're trying to work, is going to be more or less situationally advantageous. I would just stick with the lateral raise. It would be fine to do a front raise if your only concern was your medial delt, but in thinking of just overall shoulder health, I would be more concerned about just, banged my ring on the desk. I would just do a lateral raise. But even then, most people probably don't need a lot of direct work for the medial delts or shoulders in general. The shoulders are agonists in every upper body pushing and pulling movement anyways. So I tend to believe that most people probably overtrain shoulders.
Yeah, getting a good shoulder contraction is really tricky. We can never have big enough shoulders, but I think honestly the answer isn't to do more and more of everything. I think it's just getting the right accurate movements to cause that muscle damage, make that muscle work. We actually did shoulders today. We used a cable fly in front of us. So maybe, I'd say just in front of my feet is how far away the cables were, if you imagined on the side of me. I just raised them up to about here. That's where I felt my range of motion was. That's it. I was just conscious of not going too much like that because that limits your range of motion. And same token, if you raise it that way, so your thumb is upwards, that will target more the front delt. But you're finding somewhere in the middle for most people, and that might be a bit like that or a bit like that. You just find your own motion that works best for you.
Mm.
Comfort and safety is key.
Sophie's an expert at side raises.
Yep.
Pouring milk into the baby's carton.
One-handed, without spilling any.
Without any drops, no spillage.
No spillage. Catch all the drops.
Yeah.
Get used to it as a parent.
Well, friends, I'll introduce the next question, but if I pop off randomly, I do have a phone call in 5 minutes, so I do have to pop off. So I will be popping off in the middle of someone answering a question.
Rudeness.
It's
rude.
Yeah.
I know, so rude.
Thank you for your time, Nicole, today. And if anyone does want to follow Nicole, her channel name is @formerfatgirl. One word, you'll find her. She's also features in my other videos as well, like my live videos. So check her out there. The link to her channel will also be in the show notes after the show today.
Awesome. Well, thank you, friends, and happy holidays. And yeah, be safe if you're traveling. See you later.
Merry Christmas,
See you,
Nicole.
Excellent.
Gotta fix
That
this.
leaves-
There we go.
That's better. Now I can't see Jerome's face. Okay.
Nobody wants to see my face.
Jerome, you might have to press the buttons.
Ooh, okay.
My phone's on my laptop's on dim mode because I didn't put my charger in because there's no plug sockets.
Sure. So, Duano's question, what membership should I join to connect? I don't use social media. Do I include connecting via email?
Mine.
Okay. I think the best way to go about it is if you want to join as a channel member, go to the YouTube channel link of any of my videos, click on whatever videos, and they'll have at the bottom of the description will say, join my channel for perks, something like that. It'll have a link and it will say, pay 99 pence or that works about $1.20 or something, and there's different tiers. That's the cheapest way to go about it. For consultations, book in with myself, compositionconsultant.com/consultations, coaching plans, all the stuff's on the website. You'll find it quite easy to access. It's very simple, worded very clearly and priced very honestly. No discrete charges to your accounts at all. Outside of that, I'd recommend obviously Nicole, who we just saw earlier, and Jerome. What are your socials and contacts, Jerome?
If you just search on YouTube for Jerome Armstrong, you'll find me, and then that's the easiest way. And then I think my email is on the community or the About tab. If you want to reach out via email, it's whatever's easy.
That sounds like an excellent value proposition.
And while you're there, just give me a little subscribe on YouTube at Muscle Mama Sophie. You know, get me up to 100.
Yeah, so Sophie
Not that I'm
started a
very
channel, but her subscription rate has sort of plateaued off a little bit. She's stuck at about 88 now. We're trying to get to 100. The channel name is at Muscle Mama Sophie, and Mama is spelled Mumma, and Sophie is spelled Sophie. So I recommend joining that if you have not yet already. I expect at least 15 more subscribers by the end of the hour.
Yeah, let's get me to 100 by Christmas. Come on, guys.
Rick's 55.
Are you
Wow.
actually 6'6", Rick? That's rare. We have
Yeah,
two
I
giants
thought-
in the chat today.
6 foot. I'd say anything above 6'4", 6'4" and above is like a giant person, I think. I see quite a few 6'1", 6'2".
Giant.
Well, Maddie, if Maddie was 5'5", she'd be a giant. Jerome, I had a dream recently about Maddie. Yeah, I had a dream once, Maddie. So it's like her face, like her as she is now, but she was like really tall, and I was like, "What's going on?"
She's
Yeah,
a
terrifying.
20-month-old for some context, people. It's a 20-month-old with an average size 20-month-old head, but his dream was her as like a 5 foot whatever person with her tiny little 20-month-old head.
And she did feature in my latest YouTube channel member paid
Yeah.
section videos. Candy, was it Candy?
Carnival
Candy, something like that. Yeah, I recommend checking that if you want to see a little tiny little girl with something and some butter. Excellent video.
She
Beautiful.
spoke pure, just genius expertise. She spoke.
She's the brains behind the business. All right, should we
She
get back
is.
to the questions?
Yeah, I'm going to read this question and then I'm going to run to the restroom quick. Daryl asks, I've been trying your slow, heavy time sets and I get very lightheaded about 90 seconds and sometimes need to sit down. Is this normal? And then I'll be right back.
That's a good question. Yeah, so before Jerome pops back, he's obviously going to urinate right now. I've got two thoughts for this one. My first thought is, are you still breathing throughout those 90 seconds? Oftentimes, if we've got a timer in front of us or something else on our focal point, we'll think, 10, 11, 12, but we'll forget to almost breathe. So just remember to actually breathe. So I noticed the same thing. About 45, 50 seconds in, if I don't consciously try to breathe, I just forget to breathe, and then I obviously don't clear lactic acid away as quickly as I'd like. So being conscious of breathing throughout is important. You don't have to breathe fast, but you just have to breathe in enough to sort of sustain yourself and feel more comfortable. Outside of that, my other thought is when you're gripping your machine, say you're doing a leg press, you're gripping too hard, a chest press, you're gripping too hard, that'll raise your blood pressure, and your heart rate will actually elevate in response to that. Now, if you want proof of that, sit here right now as you're watching this or listening to this, squeeze your hands as hard as possible, put on a heart rate monitor on you, and you'll see it starts to go up. So that's why I think you could be lightheaded. So it could be a lack of oxygen or an oxygen deficit, or it could also be a blood pressure issue because you're restraining or occluding your blood flow. Outside of that, it could just be you're not fit enough yet. So perhaps you just need to work at that 60 to 90 seconds for a bit longer. Shorten your rest periods between sets. That'll make you fitter. So there are three things I'd personally look at. What would you look at, Sophie, in the instance where someone was struggling to feel good or they felt lightheaded at around 90 seconds?
Same as you, really. Maybe reduce it down to 60 and work on that, and like you say, build it back up. And although people are probably watching this laughing, going, "Forget to breathe. How the hell can you forget to breathe?" It's easily done when you're in the gym and you're concentrating on whatever exercise it may be. Like a lot of people that do squats, because obviously they brace to then squat down, they forget to then release the brace and to kind of breathe. So it could be that. Are you hydrated enough beforehand as well, maybe? Have you had enough kind of salt beforehand? But other than that, that's about it, really.
Sure.
Yeah,
So I
we'll take it,
missed Jonathan's points, but the way that I would answer it, it's probably breathing related. And if you're lifting a little bit slower, there's still kind of that tendency, the way that we're usually taught to lift is to exhale when we lift and inhale when we kind of lower the weight. But if you're lifting relatively slow, that's very unnatural breathing pattern. So most people, when they're exerting really, really hard towards the end of the set, will kind of keep a lot of air inside of their trunk. And you'll forcefully kind of purse your lips and breathe that air out, that big forceful, like, but when you do that, that's like a partial Valsalva maneuver, and you kind of raise your blood pressure, which could cause some of that lightheadedness. So the points that I recommend when people are breathing with respect to exercise, especially as it becomes difficult, you should almost let your mouth just hang open and breathe deeply and breathe naturally. And don't try and force air in or out. Just let your breathing happen naturally. The other thing I would recommend and probably give some consideration about is make sure you're maintaining a neutral head position. A lot of people, as things get difficult, as you're physically exerting yourself, you have a tendency to tighten everything up. And this can lead to, pulling your head back against the pad of a machine, and you can strain your neck. Otherwise, a lot of people will dip their head too low and you'll kind of cut off your own airways. So really, you want to maintain about a fist-sized gap between your chin and your chest the entire time you're exercising. And you want to keep your head relaxed. You don't want to get a lot of strain all over your body. You only want to be tensing the muscles that you're using to lift the weight. So between those three, deep, natural breathing, neutral head, don't look down, don't pull back up. It's probably the issue. But when I have clients in my studio, I tell them the hardest thing you're going to do when you're here isn't lifting weights. It's breathing properly throughout the entire course of your set.
That's well said. I like that a lot. You mentioned a good point. So I didn't think about the chin bit, the breathing bit. So anyone that goes out there and lifts some weights, you brace in a bench press, you're not doing sort of weird maneuvers for your head, your feet going all over the place. Keeping that airway open is really important. Now, I'm not a personal trainer. I don't really train people, but I had a client reach out to me and she wanted to come travel over back to Woking, so Sophie's direction of England, and I said, all right, we'll train you then. And I got her to do some side raises like we just mentioned earlier. So we had a bench and dumbbells. So we had other equipment as well, but I wanted to emulate what it'd be like in her situation at her gym that she's usually going to. So that's the equipment she has. So I said, okay, put your upper chest against the pad, but not your middle of your chest. So somewhere in the chest where it doesn't push against a breast tissue, but she can still breathe. Now, one mistake she's making, which is doing this stuff, like tucking, you'll never breathe as effectively. Your body feels best and you can breathe best in a neutral position. Anytime you tuck it like that or that, you can't breathe as well. And also as well, I mentioned not sort of bringing your shoulders back like that when you're doing it, but I sort of said spread your shoulders like you're doing a lat spread, then you're open that way, so you're not compressed. So you also you use your neck position, but how your body is wrapped around the machine or the pad as well, that's also very important. So I'm really glad you touched on that because I completely forgot about that. Do you guys have any takes on it at all, Nicole or Sophie?
I popped back on because my consult blew me off, which I'm perfectly happy with. And I came on with breathing and some weird parts of the conversation. So I'll kick it over to Sophie.
Well, I gave my answer, really. I don't really have anything else to add.
Sophie says it's easy just not to exercise and you don't have to worry about this sort of thing.
No, I didn't. Stop being a liar. You're lying.
That's a thoughtful question, because I think a lot of people don't consider this when they're doing this kind of training. But now I kind of understand now. I've done it for a bit, like what Jerome's kind of outlined. Like, yeah, it makes more sense now, because your body does all this weird stuff, and that's sometimes can be counterintuitive to what you're trying to achieve in the gym. So it makes perfect sense. Just so you know, Lambs is older than all four of us combined.
Combined? Holy!
It's impossible.
You can't be.
Wait. Oh.
From memory, I think he's 78 or 87.
He's what?
78 or 87. I can't remember. I could be wrong, but it's something like that.
There's a 7 or an 8 in the age
together.
That's like me and Nicole combined. You're not older than the four of us.
No, me and Jonathan are 56 together. So
I'm like 50 and
56
Nicole is in her 20s. So.
Oh my gosh, this is a great live stream. Jerome, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. It's the holiday season, so I'm going to lie my ass off to you.
So one time it can be nice.
Let's press some buttons, guys, shall we? Let's do it.
Ah.
There we go. So one from Andre. The question is, I've been eating a very restrictive, interesting, carnivore diet, 400 to 500 grams of lunch of chicken or red meat and 5 to 7 eggs at night. How should I proceed when my weight loss stalls? I am 183 centimeters, 188 pounds, and about 18% body fat. I'm just trying to picture that in my head, what that would look like. Quite tall, but quite slender, but a bit of a tiny bit of a tummy, but not exactly fat. That's what I'm picturing right now based on those stats. The amount of food sounds about right. What I'm probably looking at myself is I'd probably opt more so for the red meat over the chicken. But what I'd probably preferentiate is the lower fat cuts of meat. That's the most obvious thing to me. Like the first port of call to me, outside of making sure you're sleeping right and all that sort of stuff, is perhaps if we're eating ribeyes now, have a sirloin that's a bit leaner, and eat the same grammage amount of meat. That's what I would personally do, and that'd be the first thing I'd look at. Then I'd run that and milk that diet until it runs out and it no longer gives me the results. Then I'd look at reducing something else. I'd probably keep the protein at about the same. I probably wouldn't lower it at this point. You might just say, okay, I'm going to have, rather than having 7 eggs or whole eggs, I'm going to have 5 whole eggs and 2 egg whites, for example. That's probably how I'd do it. What's your guys' take? I mean, how would you go about it in this kind of situation, guys?
I mean, the most obvious thing for me, or the most obvious question, is how tall are you, and what is your goal weight? Because there's a difference between optimal weight and what your body wants you to be, and what you want, and the number you want to be. Sometimes the number that you want isn't necessarily optimal. So it just depends on how close you are to your goal weight, how tall you are, there's so many questions I would have. But the closer you get to your goal weight, or your ideal body weight, your optimal body weight, the body weight that your body is happy at, the harder it is for you to lose weight, because your body is kind of fighting against it, because it doesn't want you to go much lower than you currently are. So it just depends is my answer. It just depends.
He's 183 centimeters.
I don't know what that means.
That's 6 feet
It's
tall.
about 6 foot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
was trying to figure out what I am in centimeters, and I always give it wrong.
Okay, so
I'm picturing someone that's not heavily muscled, a bit athletic, but a little bit fat, but not like obese, so not like with a belly hanging out. That's what I'm picturing.
18% is nothing to scoff at. I mean, that's fairly lean. So I mean, he's got some muscle on him. So that's why I'm saying it just depends on what his ideal weight is. I mean, he might be close to his ideal weight, and that's why it's stalled. But I guess it just, like I said, I guess I still say it depends, because I would need more more information to be able to give a more rounded answer for me.
Fair, yeah.
Jerome, what do you think?
Sorry, I think the only thing I would add is if you feel like you've been either at a long stall or like you've been in a food deficit for quite some time, I would toy around with the idea of eating just a little bit more for 2 to 4 weeks and then kind of getting back into it. And it could be as slight as adding like 2 to 5 eggs, depending on how much you're currently eating right now. Just a little tiny bit more food. Get your metabolism used to processing a little bit more food without really putting any fat on, and then you take a slight cut again and you'll start losing that fat. But I think it's also worth pointing out that you could be doing everything right sometimes and your body will just adapt to a certain weight, and it takes a certain amount of time of even just continuously doing things right, and you'll just break through that plateau sometimes. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to do anything crazy. Sometimes you just need to stick to the plan, and after 2, 3, 4 weeks, you'll start seeing those changes again. Unfortunately, when it comes to weights, when it comes to even the ways that we try and track body composition, there's no perfect tool. And as much as the body can fluctuate on the scale or even with certain measurements, you could still be conceivably losing a small amount of fat. You just might be retaining a little bit of water. You might have had a little bit extra salt, and that's causing you to stash some water. You could be doing everything right and still making progress, but not be able to see it on the measurements and not necessarily be able to see it on the scale. So
yeah, he's got follow-up information too that he just put in the chat.
Oh, excellent.
He's 183 centimeters, which now I know what that means. His objective is to get to plus or minus 10% body fat, so currently at 18. He's been eating to satiety, trains 2 to 3 times a week, 25 to 32 minutes HIIT session.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're doing a lot of things right. My only question would be how long and how strictly have you been eating with that amount of food? Unfortunately, Carnivore is great with getting a lot of people to a very respectable level of body composition. But if you want to take things to that next level, sometimes you have to be a little bit more accurate with tracking. And that amount that our bodies will allow us to go different places is different from person to person. So some people can get, Sean Baker or Anthony Chafee lean and never track their food intake and just eat to satiety. Some people are going to have to work a little bit harder than that. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. So if you've been around that 18% long enough, you might just have to be a little bit more strict, but you can still get there. And that would be an excellent thing to sort out with a consultation with Jonathan.
There's definitely a lot to look at. There's 2 angles you could take it. You've been doing everything right, you've been tracking everything right, assuming you have. Okay, nothing's happened and you're not eating much food. Okay, maybe you need to do something else. If you're eating to satiety, you don't feel hungry, eat a bit less. The only thing is you can cut and cut and cut and cut. You can get to a point where that cut will start to reflect upon your training, so you won't be able to train as hard. So your 2 to 3 sessions of high intensity training per week will end up being 2, then 1 eventually because you just don't have the energy. You won't recover very well for the workouts. It'd be a very multifaceted approach to do that. Honestly, I'd look at it from what Jerome said. So look up a leptin reset protocol. So increase food intake by perhaps 10% for 2 weeks. That would do it. I'd front load the food to the start of the day. I've noticed it seems to work a bit better for people that have been chronically dieting, in terms of they're not getting any results. They're no longer hungry on the food amount that they're eating. Their body's just sluggish and slow, in which case that's what I'd look at. But I'd book a consultation if you're really unsure. But it seems like you're doing the right things, like Jerome said. So you've not absolutely done something wrong. It's just you need to tweak a little knob somewhere here or there. So what would you do to get ripped out of your mind if you're in his position?
Probably just book a consultation with you. Get on the coaching plan.
Next question. Okay. Yeah, he's given a good amount of information and detail, but it's like how many of these levers has he pulled to get to this point? That's what I'd want to know. In which case, that would help me differentiate whether I'd go Jerome's route or my route, really. But yeah, good. That was a good question. Hit the like as well, as Big Nev said.
Now.
Nah.
Nah.
It doesn't really matter if you hit like or dislike. Apparently, it does the same thing as long as the dislikes.
Oh, it's all
Oh.
engagement.
Oh, I'll hit the dislike then. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Are there any more? I need to press some buttons on there.
Yeah.
Okay. So Andre asked, is there any advice for those who will have a family holiday with a lot of no carnivore food? How to get back on track? I'm Brazilian, but most of my family comes from Italy and Spain, so lots of carbs. That's a good
Yeah.
question. I'd
My
probably
family's from
defer to
Italy,
Nicole.
so we're the family of pasta.
Nicole, what would you do to get back on track? 'Cause this is definitely your
Spaghetti and
area.
meatballs. So I guess there's many different ways I can go with this. The easiest and the simplest thing I can say is if your family's local, you're not taking you don't have to hop on a flight or whatever, is bring your own food. When I was vegan for 4 years, I know, my bad, that sucked. I brought my own food a lot of places. So I would say the first thing is if you are able to bring your own food. Even with a lot of carbs, there's still some sort of meat or protein. I'm assuming there's going to be something there, at least one or two things you can eat, assuming you're zero carb. So I would say just pile up your plate with all of the meat, and just stick with that. Bring your own food. The other thing you can do is give yourself permission to just sample. So just have little things here and there. If you're healed, if you aren't going to be set up for a binge or cravings or any of that stuff, if you're able to do that emotionally, just sample things and then get right back to plan the next day. Just give yourself permission so you can relieve yourself of that extra pressure around the holidays of having to abstain from those foods and feeling like you don't necessarily fit in. So if that's something that you think you would be okay doing, that's what I am doing for the holidays. We do the fish and pasta dinner, the Italian feast, the spaghetti and meatballs of fish. I'm going to have some spaghetti and meatballs because that's family tradition. And I'm giving myself permission to do that. And then I'm going right back to eating meat and all that stuff the next day. So, I mean, there's three or four things right there that should be able to kind of help get the juices flowing. But what do you say, Sophie?
Same as you, really. You either take your own food, and be the odd one out, be the weirdo, and expect the comments because you'll get it, or like you say, pile on the meats, and then if you want to feel included, so you don't get the comments, then just have like the tiniest amount of the carbs so that it's still on your plate, so no one can say you don't have it. You've not tried my dish, but you've got the tiniest amount, so then you're kind of fitting in, as they say. And then, like I say, just get straight back on it the next day. Just wake up. Your first meal is whatever you would normally have before Christmas Day, and then just go with that.
What do you say, Jerome?
There was someone that was in the chat earlier, someone to plug a video that she did. The Baroness of Beef put out a video called, I think it's called Surviving Christmas as a Carnivore. And she mentioned a lot of the same things that Sophie and Nicole said. The other thing she mentioned that I would add is you don't need anyone's permission to eat however you want to eat. And you're under no obligation to follow somebody else's dietary plans for the day. I know the holidays are one of those big times of year where everyone says, come on, just relax a little bit. Do what you think is best for you. And then the only other thing that I would add on top of that is I wouldn't try and do anything crazy to get back on plan. A lot of people tell themselves, okay, I had this meal, I shouldn't have eaten it, so I'm going to do a 3-day fast or a 24-hour fast or something crazy to try and make up for that difference. I tend to think most people are better off just getting back to the same thing that they were doing before. After 3 or 4 days, everything's going to be kind of back to normal anyways, but don't try and do any extreme behavior to make up for it.
I do have one thing to add to that, to what Jerome just said. Outside of all of this, I would say have a plan for the next day. We're all at different parts and different spots in our journey. Like Sophie's in a different position than I'm in, and so on and so forth. I am able to eat whatever the heck I want and not feel guilt, shame, and not binge anymore or doing any of those things. I choose not to. So I now have the choice. I don't let food control me anymore. So it depends on where you are. So depending on where you are, Andre, I would say have a plan for the next day. So if you do decide that you want to have the Italian type foods like pasta and stuff that you described that your family usually serve, similar to mine, then just have a plan for the next day. So you feel prepared. So you're giving yourself permission to do these things, but then you have a plan for the next day on how you're going to recover. And then that'll give you more confidence going into the holiday. So if you do plan to indulge, make sure you have a plan for the next day to make it easier for you to get back on plan if you are someone who you think might struggle a little bit to get back on plan.
Yeah, well said. I've got nothing really of value to add to that. I'll just share an experience I had. So earlier this year, I think somewhere in summertime, Sophie and I went to a family member's, I think it was her auntie's meal out party celebration in Wales. So we had to travel about, I think it's 4 or 5 or so hours each way. We stayed overnight, and at that place they had no meat that I would eat. So everything was pork. There was no chicken, no turkey, no beef, no lamb, nothing, no eggs. I had 0 options for protein whatsoever. I was kind of under the assumption, oh, maybe they have, some chicken slices, some skewer, something, anything, even if it's got sauce in it, that would be better than nothing. Anyway, I didn't prepare, so I just had to eat what was there. I was starving hungry. I didn't eat much. I didn't feel good at the time anyway. I just wanted to get some food in. And I had a plate of chips, or fries, you call them over there. And I think I had, what else was it, Sophie? Can you remember?
Bread, I think.
Bread.
And a bit of
butter,
cucumber or something.
Cucumber, just stuff I wouldn't really bother eating. It was a waste of time food that doesn't. I was like, I'm going to eat this and be hungry instantly. And I was hungry instantly. So what I did is I went to the petrol station next door, just nearby, and I bought chicken skewers, which are very expensive, ready-made cooked stuff. A chicken sandwich of some sort. I think I ended up buying a chocolate bar as well, something just to give me some energy. So I was starving, hungry. I didn't need it, but I just felt like I was not going to sleep that night unless I eat something. So I had that, and I didn't feel great for it. Lesson learned. I should have probably just went to the petrol station much sooner in the night, as soon as I realised there was no real food there, and just gone with it that way. I probably, in hindsight, would have packed a jar of pickled eggs, a protein shake, even like a protein bar is better than that sort of stuff in some instances. Some biltong, cheese strings, just had loads of that stuff and just had it packed ready with me.
That's what we did, didn't we?
Because I knew I didn't eat enough.
We bought our own food to my friend's wedding because she said it was a buffet, and she said, oh, I don't know if there's going to be things that you guys can eat. And I said, well, would you be offended if we bought our own food? And she went, oh God, no, do what you want to do. So we bought our own food because we weren't sure, but turns out we could have. And in hindsight, we should have done that when we went to Wales, but I think because it turned out to be like a 6-hour journey there and then a 7-hour journey back, we just didn't think. We just thought, oh, well, the last time we went there, the buffet was, like this, and there was plenty of choices, and it was absolutely fine. So we just assumed it'd be the same, but never mind.
Over prepare, I think, is the key. Over prepare.
Yes.
At least then you've got it on hand, and if you indulge, you have something that makes you feel not so great, it's your own fault then. You can say, oh, I messed up, I don't feel as good now. Yeah. Okay, like Jerome said, get back on the horse the next meal, the next day, what have you, and go from there. Some people also fast, so you might just not eat anything. You might just drink, a glass of water, put some salt in it, and just not eat anything. Depends how you are as a person. For me, I like to eat, I enjoy food, so for me, it's better to be prepared, just have food on the table there, ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have something else to add. Based off Jonathan, so he said messed up, and I've been hearing this a lot in the space, like you messed up and I got off plan or whatever. I don't like that terminology only because it's such a negative connotation. It's such a negative mindset. So I specialize in emotional eating and all that stuff, which is addiction, binge eating, stress eating, like any sort of eating that is not normal. And that's the mindset that leads to that. So I just say, live your life. Like if you get off plan, you live your life. That's life. So unless you plan to abstain from everything outside of meat the rest of your life, just live your life and just have a plan to get back to eating animal based, and just give yourself permission to eat whatever for that one day. But I think changing your mindset is just as important too. Like, don't think you're failing or you're cheating or whatever, because you're already going into it feeling like a failure or feeling guilty or feeling shame. If you have a little bit of mashed potatoes, you gave yourself permission, you have a plan for the next day, you're still going to feel guilty. You're still going to feel shame. You're going to feel like garbage mentally because you're already going in with that mindset. So just change your mindset, give yourself permission, and just live your life. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, it's really, in my opinion, it's just food, right? It's you shouldn't let food have that much of a control over you. And that's kind of like what we're doing in a way by saying cheating or I'm off plan or whatever. Just change your mindset and just live your life and just get right back to it the next day. Like, honestly, where I'm at in my mindset about it is it's just food. You really shouldn't let food have that much of a control over how you feel about about eating something. If you want a cookie or if you want that, have a cookie, as long as you're able to control and you don't binge, and you're at that point where you can get back to your normal eating the next day. That's the only thing I wanted to add, is because I've been hearing that a lot, and it's just such a negative mindset.
It does make sense. I mean, one thing that's new this last week is I was in my brother's house now since, I believe, Saturday night. I don't have a workable food scale. And I've weighed every food I've put in my mouth for the last 8, 9, 10 years. For the exception of like a week here and there, you know. I don't have the same anxiety I used to have about that, because I realise, you know, if I'm on the carnivore diet, my body will self-limit. My weight has been very stable in the last 2 days, so I'm thinking, oh, you know. But then it goes back to, you know, weighing yourself every day. That's more my own paranoia. Not that I think I'm going to lose loads of muscle or gain loads of fat. It's more just curiosity. You know, what does my appetite leave me? Where does my appetite, as it is right now, eating these foods without weighing it, leave my body in terms of my weight? So yeah, it's an interesting kind of way about it, but I don't get many people to weigh themselves every day. I don't think that's a appropriate way of doing it. I do it mainly just to see what's going on and how I respond to different foods, which is why I know how far off a plan I can go, you know, off a plan, without it being too impactful. So it's when I start adding in the desserts, the chocolates, the, you know, the roll of biscuits or something, I won't have one or two, I have the lot.
Yeah.
So I just
you
don't look at
can't
those
moderate
foods.
anything.
No. That's my own thing. I can't moderate it at all. I'm really bad at it. But I've got better at just saying no to foods and just saying I'm gonna,
Yeah.
you know, drink a Pepsi Max or have a, I don't know, cup of coffee or something instead of whatever the option is. Is that all the questions tonight?
I think so.
It is all about the mindset, isn't it?
I thought there was one
you hear it
about.
a lot.
Sorry, I thought there was one about collagen.
Matthew asked about collagen. I remember now. Yeah.
Here we go.
So do any of you supplement with collagen? I found it has improved my muscle recovery, makes my hair and skin look shiny, and my nails look healthier and stronger. Sophie doesn't supplement with anything. She's natural athlete.
Very natural.
No
Yeah,
performance
I don't.
enhancing
I take a little
diet.
bit of taurine every now and then, when I remember.
What about you guys?
Jerome, what you got?
I don't take any supplements right now. I guess on occasion I have pork rinds, which I'm not sure how close that is to supplementing with collagen, but I think there's a lot of glycine in it, considering it's fried pig skin. But I maybe a pork rinds once a month, so it's probably not even making a difference. So, and yeah, sorry, Nick, I can't say.
What about you, Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, beef bone broth has a good source of collagen. I mean, if you're having chicken thighs, it's the skin. Like you can get it from your food. I'm a big proponent of food first and supplement if you do indeed have gaps. I also remember reading something about collagen on how the actual, if you really are benefiting from the supplements. I don't know a lot about collagen. I know a lot of my friends take it, but I've never really been big on supplements. But Jonathan, are you familiar with I guess the absorbability of things like collagen? Because I know it definitely absorbs differently than food, but I think I read something about collagen specifically, and how you're really not getting what you think you're getting as far as the benefits go.
So the absorption rate is meant to be a bit lower. The problem is with that analysis, that test that they use to measure it, it's more in regards to muscle protein synthesis, and glycine isn't a particular trigger for muscle protein synthesis. It's more of a gluconeogenic amino acid. So you'll notice it appears more as a blood glucose elevator. That's obviously an instance where you're not eating enough food. But I think if you're eating enough protein, then the glycine will have its effect on joints, protective properties, things like that, antioxidant, GABA stimulation, things like that. I think, I'm going to get on a whim here, and I think everyone, if not all people, or most people, it's not very helpful, should ideally have about 10 grams of glycine per day. So glycine from whatever form that is, so that means you're eating, I don't know, eggs, the gristly bit of meat, stuff like that. So for most people that will find that they're eating that, it'll be about a pound and a half of meat per day, with some other stuff as well. And that's what I think is probably optimal, and that's what the research seems to suggest is optimal for different kind of health outcomes and longevity. But that's kind of extrapolation, kind of anecdotal, maybe what I seem to think people average on in terms of their food intake. My diet has about 15 grams of glycine in it every single day. I don't have, touch wood, I don't really have joint problems, really, of my back. I don't get sore knees, really. So I'm pretty much all right in that regard. I think the people that benefit from the supplementation the most are people that are not eating enough meat. So if you're say a physically active bloke and you're just about eating a pound of meat a day, yeah, maybe 5 grams could be useful. Outside of that, probably not. You'd have to look at the exact amino acid proportion of a bone broth, for example, as well, or collagen. You'll find it's got a few thousand milligrams in it per 10 grams. So you're trying to find a way to equate that as well. So bear that in mind if you're using collagen. It isn't entirely glycine, but it does have a good proportion of glycine within it. Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, and I think this is the last question. While we're talking about supplements, do you believe daily vitamins are important on carnivore? I do have a few for a few years now. I did stop for a day recently and felt a bit off. Is that like a placebo thing? Like you're so used to taking something and then you don't, and then you think something's off, but it's not really off type thing. The thing about supplements, especially these over-the-counter vitamins and just pills in general, we do absorb them differently. So you're not getting the dosing that you think you are getting. A lot of these supplements are underdosed. And when it comes to multivitamins, especially for women, the thing that women need more so than men are iron. And none of our multivitamins have iron in them. So if you're on a carnivore diet, you're likely, depending on what your actual diet looks like, you're likely getting everything you need in the most optimal form. So in my opinion, I don't see the need for supplement, because what do you think you need to supplement that you're not getting from your diet would be my question. Like, what is it you're trying to get from the supplements that you don't think you're getting from your actual diet?
Jerome, what minerals often come up, do you notice, when people talk about the carnivore diet and, I don't get much of this in, is this gonna halt my progress or transitioning? Do you notice that much?
No, I mean, like vitamin C is the biggest concern. But I mean, like when I first started carnivore, I was religious about taking a multivitamin every single day. And after a while, I just stopped taking it, and I haven't taken a multivitamin in years and haven't noticed any issues. The way that I guess I would answer this question and look at it is, if you have concerns, take it. And it's in that regard, it's probably like a insurance policy. You probably don't need it, but at the same time, you're you're probably covering all of your bases. I agree with Nicole that a lot of multivitamins or a lot of vitamins in general have very, they don't have the most bioavailable forms. You have to question the dosage. And on top of that, vitamin mineral interaction is extraordinarily complicated. Some things inhibit other absorption, some things synergistically enhance absorption. So in that regard, who the hell knows how much you're actually getting? I don't think it's necessary if you're a guy and you're eating a decent amount and it's mostly animal based. You're probably getting enough of everything. But beyond that, looking at specifics, you'd have to book a consultation with probably Jonathan, Nicole, or like Bart K to really address the specifics of that.
Yeah, personally, I've never met anyone that has had a deficiency in any of the main vitamins or minerals. The only thing that has come across low normal sometimes not always, is vitamin D. That's the only one. Now, people often have symptoms of magnesium deficiency. Could that be rectified with a bit more magnesium? Yes. Could it be rectified by healing the gut to absorb more of the nutrition that you're taking in? Yes. And that's usually my first port of call. So you kind of got two angles here. So you obviously have a blood test. In your blood at this point in time, there is this much vitamin, this much mineral. This is within this range of whatever reference range it happens to be, which may or may not be valid. Okay, that gives you one idea. Do you have symptoms of a deficiency of that vitamin and mineral? Yes or no? Is it because of that vitamin and mineral, or is it because you're doing something else, you're overtraining, you're not sleeping enough, you're doing something wrong, you're stressed, your family is giving you grief for something, you're eating biscuits every day, there's something else to it. There's a lot of facets to look at, so that's why a consultation is important. My other thought is, if you can rectify a symptom with a vitamin or mineral, it could be that you are deficient in that, in which case use it, but always aim to come off these things. The goal isn't to stay on it forever. I teach people, as much as my consultations are affordable, some people can't afford them. So I actually try to approach the diet, and the lifestyle around it to be the most affordable, the most bang for their buck. So if they're paying, say, $50, $60 for an hour with me on a consultation, I'm going to try and make sure they're not spending a dime more than they have to. Same thing with Jerome, same thing with Nicole. We've got an ethical obligation to not overcharge people that will come to us. So I'd probably look at that side of it, definitely. Are these vitamin pills from Kirkland absolutely innocuous? Are they going to kill you? They're not going to kill you, I don't think, unless you've got maybe hemochromatosis, you take too much iron. Outside of that, you might not notice any real negative effects. But Jerome's completely right. There are contraindications or counteracting or contra-inhibitive effects of different vitamins and minerals. Trying to work that out in a supplement is very tricky. For example, you look at the glucose uptake and how that affects the vitamin C absorption and vice versa. They compete for the same receptor. Who knows how many milligrams of vitamin C you need? All I know is I've never met someone on the carnivore diet with scurvy. So if you're going to look at anything, vitamin D is the first port of call. Some amino acids are situationally important or useful. Transitionally, some electrolytes are useful, but the goal is always to come off them. Insurance policy aside, personally, I'm not a biggest fan of using multivitamins. As someone that is physically active, I need a lot of food, so I eat a lot of food, and that is my multivitamin. If you're that concerned, eat a bit of liver each day or something. Then when you don't feel the need to eat liver anymore, you don't like it, don't eat it. That's I'm quite a purist. I like people to just do the minimum thing that I need to do and not worry about anything else. And when a problem arises, work out the root cause of that problem, then go to the next level through the least abrasive approach first. But that's kind of my take on it. It's a bit of a mixture of all of your takes, probably, in some kind of circumstance.
Yeah. I will say, don't take I'm against people taking vitamins just to take a vitamin. Like, if you really are deficient, find out exactly what you're deficient in. Don't just guess. And then the other thing is, what you have to remember, similar to vitamin C and why we don't get scurvy, is because the RDAs, the recommended dietary allowance, is based off of a high carb diet. We're not eating high carb, so our metabolism is different. So if the RDAs for things like vitamin C, since it was mentioned here, were true for people who are not on a high carb diet, then everyone on this stream and everyone in the chat, we would all have scurvy right now. Well, we don't have scurvy. That's because those RDAs are based off of a high carb diet. We don't have that glucose interference. We are not high carb. So our metabolism does function differently than someone eating 50, 60% of their diet of carbs. So think about that too when you're thinking if you're deficient in something or whatever. Like Jonathan said, if you have symptoms, sure, figure out what those symptoms are. But I just want to point that out, that just because an RDA or you say like I have to have this many milligrams of X, Y, Z vitamins and minerals doesn't necessarily hold true for us. I just wanted to further what Jonathan was saying there.
That's very helpful. Yeah, appreciate that. This brings me to this last little anecdote I have. So you'll see guys tonight, tomorrow night I'm on Carnival Team GB, a live Q&A session with 4 or 5 other guys, sometimes a girl as well. Now Richard, he's another bodybuilder kind of guy. He now competes in endurance sports, I believe. He takes in around, I believe it's 10 times the amount of potassium that I do each day. Or it's a significantly higher amount. But he weighs about 3/4, 2/3 what I weigh. Then he drinks that much more water as well. So, you take in X amount of minerals in your body, vitamins, you drink that much more water, you have to flush more away. So tying together the food, the vitamins, the minerals, and the hydration together, that's why we just say, listen to your appetite, eat to satiation, drink to thirst, salt to taste. You can't really beat that. That's your best bet, outside of having some tissue mineral analysis and some kind of blood test. So that's what I'd be looking at as well. But yeah, these numbers are all over the shop, and there's no absolute way to know. I get in 200 milligrams of magnesium per day in my diet. By most people's standards, I should be deficient and be having heart attacks. Apparently not. Touch wood. But yeah, that's for another day. But yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. Do we have any last minute thoughts?
I was just going to say, so when I started the carnivore diet, I took supplements to fish oils and multivitamins and fucking everything else. And then it got to the point that I just forgot because I'm a busy mum. I don't have time to remember to pop a pill. And then I didn't feel any different. So I think, what was the point in me taking it in the first place if I felt no fucking different from not taking it now, months later? And I still feel no different. I might feel a little bit more tired, but kids, Christmas, you know what I mean? We've got stuff to do. Prepping for the big guy. So I just think when I can't remember the chap's name, when he said that he felt a bit off when he didn't take it one day, and I think, Nicole, you said placebo. I think it is. I think you're telling yourself, I didn't take it today, I feel like shit. Eventually your body, you'll forget about it, and then you won't feel like shit, because I forgot countless times, and I thought, what's the point? I don't feel any different from when I took it to when I didn't. So I'm not going to waste my time popping pills when I can just eat more meat or have an extra egg and I'll feel fine. So yeah, listen to your body. Easy. Listen to your body.
That's the hashtag of this stream. Eat more meat.
Eat more meat. Have a steak. Have a fucking steak, love. And an egg too. Fuck it.
That's it. Push your boat out, Sophie.
Maybe a bit of cheese. It's Christmas. Have a bit of cheese in there too.
Yeah, go have a little bit of cheese at Christmas.
We'll have a bit of cheese board at Christmas. The fancy shit that you don't get normally. Yeah.
I love you, Sophie. Come back. I like this extra estrogen.
Well, that's enough out of the ladies for now. It's time to get the testosterone back onto this.
Yeah, let's get back on board.
Yeah.
I think. Yes.
Yeah. We've got more.
Of it.
Yeah.
Actually, I must actually ask, Nicole, are you having on Sophie on your channel with Pim at some point?
Probably not this time, unless she wants to. I haven't had a chance to reach out to anyone, but Pim and Jamie and I are doing a live stream Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which I think is 7 p.m. your time. If you are free, I will send you the link. We're going to be talking about high fat versus high protein. I think Pim picked the topic, and the differences between the two. So if you're free, I'll drop you the link after the stream.
Okay. I wouldn't be able to get on 4/7. I might be like half an hour late just because by the time the kids are in bed, and I'm actually working that day, so I'm on an extra long shift that day.
Yeah, I was telling Jonathan, I was like, oh, because usually we stream at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I was like, oh, this is like 2 hours early. Maybe Sophie will be able to join. And I think he told me you might be 30 minutes late. So that's why I didn't end up
Yeah.
sending you the link, because if we only, I'll still send you the link. You can pop on. Hopefully
right.
it'll go a little more than an hour, so it'll be worth your time.
All right.
Excellent. We're probably going to wrap this up now, guys. And as always, buy all of my stuff, buy all of Jerome's stuff, go to Nicole's channel and buy all of her stuff. Then if you're not sure if you've bought it or not, do it again just to make sure.
Yeah.
And hit
And
like on all of
subscribe
our
to me.
videos. Leave pleasant comments.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm a greedy, filthy animal. Jerome is a nasty bit of work, and Nicole is addicted
I'm nice.
to sugar.
I'm nice.
I'm just nothing.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna be it.
Yeah.
Although
Alright, we'll leave it
apparently
there then, guys.
he obviously can't get anyone, although he's got a wife, apparently. But, you know,
Apparently.
missing.
I could write apparently about every single comment I get on YouTube sometimes. I'm like, oh, that's what it is apparently. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I won't post any more, guys, 'cause I think it's unsettling a lot of people. All that negativity, it's void. It's voiding my channel as being a purveyor of informative content. If you want entertainment, definitely check out Nicole's channel. And extra entertainment at Jerome's, definitely. And even more at Sophie's.
You get nothing there because I haven't posted in ages. But subscribe anyway, you know.
Merry Christmas.
guys.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Take care.
Same to you.